You're looking for a windlass that simply works, something that will pull your anchor line without you having to wrestle with a crank that won't chew up your boat's battery, and that feels like a good bang for the buck. You've probably seen a dozen options with endless spec tables, but the real question is whether any of them actually fit into the everyday rhythm of getting out on the water, anchoring, and heading back home. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The hesitation most boat owners feel is that a pricey automatic windlass could end up being more hassle than help, especially if it's over-engineered for a small runabout or underpowered for a heavier vessel. That's why I'm going to walk through the Maxwell RC10 1012V automatic rope chain windlass, looking at the practical side of the gear rather than just the headline numbers, and help you decide if it's the right fit for your dock-to-anchor routine. First off, the RC1010 sits in a sweet spot that many small to medium boat owners overlook. It's built for 3/8-inch CH chain up to 5/8-inch CH rope, which covers the majority of anchoring setups you'll see on 20 to 30-foot boats that use a combination of chain and rope for a quick sit-and-go. The 12-volt motor means you can run it directly off your boat's house battery, no need for a separate power pack or a high-output alternator. For a typical day out, you'll find the motor draws just enough current to pull the line in a smooth, controlled motion without draining the battery faster than you'd expect. In real-world terms, I've heard owners say they can drop and retrieve the anchor 3 or 4 times on a single charge, which is plenty for a day of cruising or a weekend fishing trip. Installation is where a lot of the hidden trade-offs appear. The unit is designed to bolt onto a standard windlass post, so if your boat already has a mounting point that matches the Maxwell's footprint, you're looking at a few hours of work with basic hand tools. That's a big plus compared to larger, more complex windlasses that require custom plates, reinforced frames, or even professional welding. However, the RC10 and 10 does need a solid, level platform. Any flex in the post can cause the motor to hunt or the chain to jam. In practice, this means you'll want to double-check that the post is well secured before you tighten the bolts. If you have an older boat with a worn-out post, you might need to replace it, which adds a modest extra cost and a bit of extra effort. What really sets this model apart is the automatic control. You push a button on the handheld remote, and the motor does the rest, pulling the line in at a steady speed until it hits a preset tension. There's a built-in clutch that disengages once the line is fully drawn, preventing the motor from overrunning the anchor. For most users, that translates into a set-and-forget experience. You drop the anchor, let the chain out, then when you're ready to come home, a quick press reels everything back in without you having to stand over a noisy crank. The remote is simple enough that you can keep it on a console shelf, and the wiring is straightforward, just a standard 12V lead that plugs into a fuse circuit. Because the system is electrically simple, troubleshooting usually comes down to checking the fuse or making sure the remote battery isn't flat, which are tasks most boat owners can handle on their own. Now, let's talk about the practical downsides that don't get shouted about in the marketing copy. First, the windlass does not have a built-in rope diameter sensor, which means you have to be mindful of the rope you pair with it. The spec says it works with rope up to 5/8-inch CH, but if you go beyond that, the clutch can slip under load, and the motor may stall. That's something to keep in mind if you like to switch between thicker rope for heavy weather and thinner line for light anchoring. Second, the unit's motor is tuned for moderate loads. If you have a heavy anchor or a particularly long chain rope combination, you may notice the retraction speed slowing down as the load builds. It's not a failure, just the motor doing what it's designed to do, yet it can add a few minutes to the haul-in process on a big day. Finally, because it runs off the boat's 12V system, you'll want to monitor your battery state of charge, especially on longer trips where you're also powering lights, radios, and other electronics. A quick scan with a battery monitor before you head out will tell you whether you have enough reserve to run the windlass a few times without dipping below safe levels. Who should consider the Maxwell RC10? If you own a small to mid-size boat that uses a 3/8 to 5/8-inch chain rope setup, and you value a quick, hand-free anchoring routine, this is a solid match. It's especially appealing for anglers who drop anchor.